There are some places in the world where Christians are persecuted. And our speaker this morning works in one of those places. And so we are not posting the message online this morning. But we do have a three-part message this morning. One from Bobber Bill, one from Pastor Zach, and one from myself. We hope you will find these segments helpful and encouraging.
Hi, this is Bobber Bill, and last week at Camp Lebanon, we had the fun of doing mega fun with a whole bunch of kids, and including some kids from J-Team. And we talked about the good shepherd. Of course, the Bible talks about Jesus as the good shepherd. We call him the good shepherd because it's good that he's the good shepherd, which makes it doubly good. And one of the things we talked about is the shepherd psalm, which is Psalm 23. And it's actually the Lord's psalm, and it's also, it can be your psalm. And I'll show you. I'm going to read it twice. And the first time I'm going to put the emphasis on the Lord. And you can count the number of times that the Lord is mentioned, either as the Lord or I or me or he or his, whatever. And then you can also, the second time we'll read through it, be about my psalm. So you can count how many references are to me and to mine. That's kind of cool. So this is the Lord's psalm. Listen. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me along right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. And surely your goodness and your love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Did you count them? There were 12, right? So you can learn about the Lord just by studying those. Now you can read it as your psalm, which is why I think a lot of people use this for like a funeral psalm. But it says this, count them. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Did you count them? 17. This is the Lord's psalm. It's also our psalm from the good shepherd. That's good news.
In 2011, my wife and I published a book together. It's called Backward Glances, Faith Through a Rearview Mirror. We were living in Duluth at the time, and this is a little story that has to do with a snowblower. It's called When All Else Fails. When adventure's about to break over Spider-Man, his spider sense makes him tingle. Northlanders experience something like that when big snow is coming. People who have things with cylinders in their garage tingle with anticipation. I was tingling that Saturday night in February on the eve of a big snow. I had a snowblower with a cylinder in my garage. I don't know why it seems more like an adventure than work to blow out the driveway. It just does. It was a Craftsman snowblower with a Tecumseh engine, which I bought in the summer at a garage sale. I had the folks put gas in it and start it up, and I watched it crawl and spin the auger. The price was right, so I took it home and waited. Sunday morning found me in the garage, tingling and grinning. I set the choke, pushed the throttle to run, and pulled the starter cord. It came off in my hand. Old cord. No problem. Half an hour later, it was reunited with the recoil unit, and I pulled again. The recoil unit failed. The spring had detached from whatever it is usually attached to, and I was crestfallen. Fortunately, I had a neighbor with a monster snowblower who took pity on me. He tingled and grinned all up and down my driveway. I took the offending part to a repair shop the next week. The owner looked for another unit. He didn't have one. He took a closer look and decided to try and fix mine. This was followed by comments, not all favorable, about the design and construction, and by searching for the right iron punch and hammer to knock out the bushing, and by dropping a small spring on the floor and stepping on it, and with the aid of needle-nose pliers he really didn't like, setting the detached spring right again. He wound a little tension into the spring and into the recoil unit before putting it all together. Exactly how much tension is a trade secret. He told me this with a menacing look as he concealed what he was doing. But the repair shop owner did let me watch some of the work. While I was there in his inner sanctum, he got several phone calls, sometimes talking on two phones at once. I had a few minutes to look over the tools on his bench and the ones hanging on the pegboard. There were tools I had never seen before, like a curved-handled crescent wrench, and some I can't describe that were marked for authorized personnel only. I can't describe them because I think he sprayed me with gas that made me forget most of what I saw. But I do remember the one he saved as a last resort. Hanging at the top of one pegboard was a hand grenade. Well, it was harmless, the bottom having been drilled and the explosive stuff removed. But I thought, this is what you turn to when all else fails. If you can't fix it, you blow it up. I'm always pleased when something is made to work again after being broken. I admire the repair shop owner who knows how to restore broken machines. Thanks to him, my snowblower worked again. He reminds me that God restores people to life after they have been broken. And being really good at this, God never has a day of frustration so great that he reaches for a hand grenade. He has no when all else fails tool. The flood came close, but he had an ark tool by which he salvaged Noah and his family and restored the whole world. We, of course, have grenades of various descriptions. We resort to divorce, abuse, running away, suicide, and some lesser expressions of anger and frustration. What we cannot fix, we often blow up. Often the most difficult thing is to put the broken parts of our lives into God's hands. Maybe the reason is that since Adam and Eve broke their relationship with God in the Garden of Eden, we've tried to hide the broken parts or fix them ourselves as if we were God. We can hide, cope, or make do, but only God can fix what is severely broken in us. The Old Testament prophet Isaiah wrote, "Surely the arm of the Lord is not too short to save." That comes from Isaiah 59:1. God himself has been hurt and broken, despised, rejected, ignored, and misunderstood. In the person of Jesus, he was killed. Or better said, he willingly laid down his life. He took on the world's brokenness and paid with his own life to get it fixed. That is the story of Good Friday. Then, when Jesus was raised from the dead, something new happened. What had been unfixable, namely death, suddenly became fixable. That is the story of Easter. If death is fixable, then everything else is fixable too. If not in this life, then in the next one, for those who trust in Jesus. The cross and the empty tomb are the ultimate tools. They grab hold of a person's faith and fix any kind of brokenness, even when all else fails.
One of the fun things of getting to do a video like this is that I get to share a little 5-minute devotion. And one of my favorite things to do when I do those 5-minute devotions is read stories out of these books. I have several of them, and they're just called Hot Illustrations for Youth Talks. But I think one of the coolest things about them is that they're really quite good for all ages. It doesn't need to be just youth. And so today I want to do that with you. And you know what? We're going to read a story. I am Zach, so I think it's now a good time to say it's now time for story time with Zach. Ooh, interesting. For those of you who know what that means, you'll get a kick out of it. The story of the day is called You Know the Song. It goes like this. There was once a Shakespearean actor who was known far and wide for his one-man show of reading and recitations from the classics. He would always end his performance with a dramatic reading of the 23rd Psalm. Each night, without exception, as the actor began his recitation, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," the crowd would listen attentively. And then, at the conclusion of the psalm, they would rise in thunderous applause and appreciation of the actor's incredible ability to bring the verse to life. But one night, just before the actor was to offer his customary recital of the 23rd Psalm, a young man from the audience spoke up. "Sir, do you mind if tonight I recite the 23rd Psalm?" The actor was quite taken back by this unusual request, but he allowed the young man to come forward, stand in front and center on the stage to recite the psalm, knowing that the ability of this unskilled youth would be no match for his own talent. With a soft voice, the young man began to recite the words of the psalm. When he was finished, there was no applause. There was no standing ovation, as like the other nights. All that could be heard was the sound of weeping. The audience had been so moved by the young man and his rendition that every eye was full of tears. Amazed by what he heard, the actor said to the youth, "I don't understand. I've been performing the 23rd Psalm for years. I have a lifetime of experience and training, but I have never been able to keep an audience moved as well as you did tonight. Tell me, what is your secret?" The young man humbly replied, "Well, sir, you know the psalm, but I know the shepherd." It's not enough to just know the content of our Bible. We need to know the creator of the Bible. Bobber Bill so wonderfully read to us the 23rd Psalm over and over again, which is great. And we know that it's a psalm for us, and it's a psalm from God, for us. But if we don't know God, if we don't know who wrote the psalm, then it's just a bunch of words on a page. We need to know our creator. We need to know the author of our story. And so today, as you go, just think about that. Do you know the author of the story? Do you know God well enough to know the shepherd rather than just know his words? I hope today that you find a place in your time and in your day and in your heart where you can say, "I know the shepherd." Thank you for joining us on an online service like this. Whether you came to church this morning, you're watching now, or you're watching at home, as soon as we upload this, we just appreciate all of you and thank you so much. And I hope your day is wonderfully blessed and that you can say that you know the shepherd.